the Miami Dolphins with
Oh,
Tua.
of course. Yeah, they totally forgot to price up all of them, including Devon Achane. Yeah, it's very bad. Very bad.
That's the spot to me. And I know, once again, it's not like the traditional this player's out, this guy benefits, therefore he's the value piece. Like Tyreek Hill is still 7K. So you wouldn't consider that to be value traditionally, but how you get away from a $7,000 Tyreek Hill in a matchup against the Arizona Cardinals with Tua back at QB. Like, unless Tua is just completely past it and he's just not able to play because he can't function because of all these concussions that he's had at this point. Like Jalen Waddle's $5,400. Tyreek Hill is $7,000. Tua is $6,100. This is the team that I'm going to be stacking on a lot. And I think this is where we should start with building a lineup as well.
We should. The only question is the chalk here just going to be exorbitant?
As of right now, so ultimately, I think it's going to be very popular. As of right now, though, we've got Tyreek Hill projected for 14% ownership. I don't buy that. Jalen Waddle projected for 6% ownership. I don't buy that either. But at least as of right now, it's not projected to be massive.
Okay. If that's the case, and I mean, it's going to be relatively popular for sure, just so we know. But let's see what we can build. Another thing I'd throw out that is maybe you can just get different with that, because Devon Achane is also very underpriced. I know he came back from the concussion. You have Raheem Mostert getting worked in. Jalen Wright basically went back to not playing much at all. I think he played 9% of snaps or something last week, Greg. So I'm not super worried about that at all. He played 6 total snaps. Achane played 40, and Raheem Mostert played 23. So it's still a two-headed monster with the tilt going probably like 60% of snaps to Achane. And let's not, like, this is a good spot too. It's a good matchup. This Arizona defense, say what you want about him, limiting Justin Herbert to 15 points, but come on, they have 400 total yards of offense. They just don't have anybody. Will Dissly had 10 targets in that game. Ladd McConkey's their number one. They didn't even have Quentin Johnston. So you're talking to me about a Tua Tagovailoa-led offense that has, like, we look at them as how bad they were recently since Tua got hurt, but their defense has still been good, number one. Number two, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, all of whom are underpriced. It's so hard to get away from it. How do you want to build? How do you want to start this build?
I go Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and I'm also looking up what the pricing was on all of these guys. This is mostly out of curiosity. I know the prices were higher, but I'm curious how much higher these guys were priced prior to Tua getting hurt. So Tyreek Hill was what was the game that we first saw Tua got hurt? It was the
Bills.
The Bills game. That was a primetime game in week 2. All right. So we'd have to look at the week 1 pricing to be able to look at the main slate. So week
$8,700 Hill. I looked at this already.
Yeah. Hill was $8,700. Yet Jalen Waddle, not quite as big of a price gap, but still, he was $6,300. And Achane week 1 was $6,800. So you're looking at players who are being discounted for something that just doesn't, what does it matter that Tua was out? That maybe he's a little bit compromised and that adds a little bit of risk, but it doesn't mean that all of a sudden, Tyreek Hill should be $1,700 less expensive, Achane $600 less expensive, Jalen Waddle $900 less expensive. So I really like these builds. And to the point you made before as well, assuming that the ownership gets really high on the Miami passing game, we could also try making some lineups where we're building other stacks, but we have Achane in there at running back to still get exposure to Miami, and then you just be hoping he's the one who scores the touchdowns in that scenario.
I'm even open to trying something that's like Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane with no quarterback.
Yeah,
we don't have to do it here
with that,
but I think
not relative to the. I had lineups last week where it was. I mean, to be clear, I had a lot of shitty lineups last week. It was very hard to avoid the absolute minefield of that slate where. You really, to have like a good lineup, all you had to do is just avoid all of the mines in any individual lineup. It was very hard to do that. But like, for instance, I think this is a comparable example. I had lineups last week that didn't have Sam Darnold, but did have Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson in it because Aaron Jones is one of our favorite running backs. Justin Jefferson, one of our favorite wide receivers. So just because of the volume of those two and the high-paced matchup, I thought that was reasonable. And same for this week. I don't think that you have to have two in a lineup that has Achane and Tyreek Hill.
You don't. And maybe that's the way to just do things differently. it's very possible that Achane and Tyreek Hill both have big games. And you know what the great part is? This is no longer okay, well, I'd love to play Tyreek Hill and I'd love to play Devon Achane, but it's $16,000 to play both of them.
Not the case anymore. We got these reasonable price points, and it's a good matchup. It's not like they're playing, it's not like they're playing in, a slog of a game against a good defense. It's going to be played at a low pace. They're playing against the Arizona Cardinals. The total's 46.5. Arguably, the total should be even higher than 46.5. But that aside, there aren't very many games that have a higher total in this for the entire slate. You've got, so that one's at 46.5. I know you went over some of the totals before, but Bengals Eagles is 48 points. Seahawks Bills 47. That's it. Those are all the games that have a higher total than Dolphins Cardinals.
Yeah, Dolphins have a 25-point team total as well. So I like it. Let's see what we can do with it. So we got actually, let me make sure I have the right slate. There we go. Okay. Wait, why is that?
Any runbacks that you really like from Arizona? I'm kind of looking at the slate as a whole, and I think that there are viable guys we could get to, but there's nobody I really love from Arizona in this particular game.
Hold on, real quick. Jordan, what slate do you have up top there? Yeah, I know the main slate's not populating on the single lineup tool.
Oh. All right. I didn't realize that. I'll message support right now.
Yeah, let them know. In the meantime, we can build this lineup out, see if they can push a fix for it. If not, we'll just, do what we have to do. Fortunately, Pittsburgh and New York Giants is not a great one. And believe it or not, San Francisco, Dallas, maybe that's not terrible with all of the injuries. It might just be something where you're getting to Mason or something. How much is he? 7,900. So throw Tua in there. We got him. We got Tyreek Hill. We got Jalen. Okay.
Keep in mind also, Jordan Mason, that is the Sunday Night Football game. So that's not going to be on the main slate. The one thing that's a little bit confusing now that we just realized that we're looking at the Thursday to Monday slate. So for FanDuel, we could still look at the Sunday Night Football game, but for DraftKings purposes, that game is not going to be on the slate. Somebody had asked about Ricky Pearsall on the DraftKings main slate in chat, and not going to be a consideration. But looking at the Arizona side of this game, just to get back to this, Lofty, do you want to force a run back, or are you good with just the Miami side?
Perfectly fine not forcing a run back here. I don't think it needs to be done because Trey McBride looks decent, but you also have Brock Bowers, who isn't that much more expensive. You might have, that's just one of those. You have Travis Kelce against Las Vegas. I don't love him right now as much as our projections would suggest, but no, I don't think you have to. Plus, do you want to pay? Miami actually has a pretty good secondary for what it's worth. You're not paying for Harrison here. If anybody, it'd be McBride or Connor, but wait till you see how deep the running back position is in that 6K range.
Yeah, there are a handful of guys that I like at running back, and we could start talking about some of those guys too. There's nobody I like that's crazy expensive at running back. There's nobody who I like that's very cheap. There's a lot of guys I like in the middle though.
Me too. Ben and I were talking about it yesterday. While I'd love to get the Barkley in this spot, it's just so difficult to do at that price point. It's really tough to do. Same with Derrick Henry against Cleveland. Even Kenneth Walker in a great spot. Somebody I tweeted us yesterday. He's like, hey, I like your tiers because we do the tiers for the First Look show and we put them on Twitter. He's like, but I love Kenneth Walker. And I'll reiterate what I said. Like, I like him too, but almost 8K for Kenneth Walker becomes a little bit more difficult when you've got some of the, I love J.K. Dobbins this week. I'll go right back to the well. I mean, I want to plug him in here right now against the Saints. Guess how many, I want you guys to take a guess in chat and you, Greg. So how many rushing yards do you think the Saints have allowed over the last 2 weeks without looking at anything? Stop moving your eyes around. Where are you going to pull it up? Son of a bitch.
All of them. I mean, they give up a gazillion points every week. Every time I look at the Saints game, it's like, hey, look, the Saints have allowed 51 points and we're halfway through the second quarter or something ridiculous. The last couple of games, obviously an exaggeration, but I think they did give up 51 points last game. So, like, I have no clue. I'm just going to say 160. I know it's a really big number, whatever it is.
No, how many over the last 2 games rushing?
Oh, if they're saying how many are they averaging?
No,
So
over the last 2.
then.
What?
320 then.
Okay. Close. 502.
Not that close.
I'm joking. 502 rushing yards over the last 2 weeks. There are teams who have not allowed that many rushing yards on the season. There are, just throwing this out there. There are, let me pull this up. I think it's several teams that have not allowed that on the entire season, and they have not had a bye week. So that's how bad they've been. Can they fix it? Maybe. Like, I'm not saying they're going to continue to give up 250 rushing yards per game. But yeah, it's been bad to the point where I'm not sure how you get away from that. I love Dobbins.
Yeah. I mean, really the only, like, I like Dobbins too. Certainly at the start of the year, I was just wrong on Dobbins. I didn't think he was going to be able to be a workhorse back. Clearly, that's not been an issue. He's been able to be a workhorse back despite all the injuries. Crazy comeback. I know that a lot of the attention for comeback player of the year at the start of the season, it was Aaron Rodgers. It was Sam Darnold at another point, which was totally ridiculous because just based on what the voting criteria is, he shouldn't even be eligible to win the award. So not that long ago, Sam Darnold was second in odds behind Aaron Rodgers to win comeback player of the year. Now Rodgers has fallen. Darnold is like way off the board at this point once people realize what the actual criteria is for the award. And I think J.K. Dobbins kind of gets slept on in all this. You got a guy with significant knee injury, tore his Achilles, and now he's been one of the best running backs in all of football. It's a crazy, crazy comeback for J.K. Dobbins. So I agree. I like him against the Saints. The only knock I have against him is that Breece Hall is $400 more expensive playing against the New England Patriots. So I like J.K. Dobbins, but if I was choosing between Dobbins or Breece Hall, I would lean towards Breece Hall in that matchup against the Patriots.
Okay. Yeah, I would lean Dobbins a lot. Our projections agree with you. The Jets are dysfunctional right now is the problem.
Yes. And I know that, did you see Aaron Rodgers in post-game press conference the other day?
No.
He thinks the media has been too negative towards the Jets and it's been an issue for them and that
is that right?
The team needs to just stop listening to me. Listen, if you're playing in New York, you have a team with a lot of expectations. You start the year 2-5 or 2-6. I think they're 2-5 at this point. You're going to get negative attention. And if they were winning games, they wouldn't be getting that negative attention. So it can't be that because of bad coverage, the Jets have been bad, because they have gotten the bad coverage because they've been bad. It hasn't gone the other way around. People were very positive about the
everything positive. I mean, are you trying to tell me that there's far more media coverage on a New York football team than one located in Green Bay, Wisconsin? Come on. That doesn't sound right.
If they were winning,
they'd be the talk of the town. Let's see if we could possibly throw Dobbins and Breece Hall in. I don't care. Let's try it. It's going to be tough. However, this may be our saving grace. So let's just I'm going to throw a cheap defense in there. Let's go.
You could go to the Chargers and correlate them with the Saints. They're 3,300.
You could.
I correlate them with Dobbins. I meant to say.
Any cheaper options here?
There aren't that many like crazy cheap ones.
$2,700 Bears against very likely Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Oh, have we? I haven't seen anything. I was assuming that Daniels would be good to play this weekend. Is that not going to be the case?
They're going to try, but I don't. Let's go $2,600 Falcons against that banged up Bucks team.
Okay.
All right, and then, well, actually, no, because we're going to need a Bucks receiver here. Although I'm not sure it matters, but.
Yeah, we could go. Chargers still $3,300. Like I ran Sims. I got some of the Titans defense, but $2,200 for them against the Lions. I'm not like super enthralled with that.
You want to just go Chargers?
Yeah, let's if we need the extra salary, we could
Yeah, we'll
go
go
we could
down.
go down later. But like I said, I do like that we are getting, while it isn't massive correlation, there's some correlation between the defense and the running back. So Chargers defense with J.K. Dobbins.
All right, so who do you want? Jalen McMillan, Palmer, or Shepard?
Or Kate Otten.
We could go Kate Otten too, sure.
What's our I would say Cade. Also, I don't have an issue with Cade Otten and Trey Palmer being in the same. I don't have an issue
either.
with getting they're all very cheap. Like it's not like because you have McMillan at $3,700, it means you can't get Cade Otten at 3,500 or Palmer in the lineup. I guess the bigger question is, do you have a strong preference between Jalen McMillan or Trey Palmer?
Well, I'm curious why we're projecting Jalen McMillan for so much less ownership than Palmer. And like, why are we projecting Palmer for so much more ownership than Shepard and McMillan?
Yeah, and it's not like the projection's that much different. We've got Palmer a little bit ahead, but it's 10.7 fantasy points to 9.7.
And the price isn't that like, let's go McMillan here.
Okay. Yeah, McMillan, his ownership's going to come way up as well.
Oh, yeah, he's going to be chalk. I think so. That gives us 5,100 for a tight end and a flex. We have Tua, Dobbins, Hall, Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Jalen McMillan, and Chargers defense. That's not bad.
Yeah, and then if we go to Cade, by the way, the main slate is in here now for the Thursday to Monday slate.
Okay,
you
cool.
Let's just refresh. We'll finish this lineup, then you can refresh afterwards, Jordan. But so if we went Cade Otten at tight end, what did that give us for remaining salary there, Jordan? 48? Oh, 6,800. Yeah. Right, I was looking at that number incorrect. So 6,800, then you just plug in Tony Pollard. That looks pretty good to me.
Okay, so I'm just let me just say right now. We are not playing Tony Pollard. That projection is ridiculous.
I mean, I still have interest in like the projection is very high, but I still have interest in Tony Pollard again this week.
Yeah, I don't.
That team is workload.
That team is fucking trash, dude. I'm so they're so. They've get been
bad, but Pollard is still getting enough volume to where he's been having good fantasy games.
I don't know if maybe this is me just not seeing the forest for the trees here, but I think it's wild. I don't know where this is. Look, that Pollard is projecting for 6 more than Kareem Hunt, who has the Raiders this week.
The projection's too high, but I still like Tony Pollard at $6,500. Also, I think it's a benefit that Will Levis isn't expected to play because Will Levis is just an absolute train wreck at quarterback.
So is Rudolph. Come on.
Rudolph is still, to me, an upgrade over Levis right now. Like going forward, Levis clearly has more of a ceiling, but I would trust Mason Rudolph if I needed to win a football game before I trust Will Levis. And then still, if you look at the last few games that we've seen out of Tony Pollard, and yeah, last game it was a blowout, 16 carries, 61 yards, had 6 targets in the passing game. Wasn't a massive fantasy game or anything, but still the game before against the Colts, 17 carries, 93 yards and a touchdown, 3 targets in the passing game. The week before, 22 carries against the Dolphins, 88 yards and a touchdown, plus the 2 targets in the passing game. He's going to get somewhere around 20 to 22 touches. It's something that I'm going to be interested in, really, no matter what the QB situation and the overall offense scenario is.
You're right about that for sure, because the volume is significant. This matchup is also brutal. What I'm struggling to figure out is what's the ceiling for a guy like Pollard in a spot like this. On the road, 11-point dogs against the Detroit Lions. That is so really tough to overcome. Yeah, he's involved as a pass catcher, but they have a 16-point implied total. A 16-point implied total this week. It's the same as the Patriots.
So here's actually the biggest potential hangup I would have with Tony Pollard is that we don't know the status of Tajay Spears. He's been out recently. If Spears returns, totally changes the dynamic. But if he doesn't, Tony Pollard could get 10 targets in the passing game. They've been playing him a lot.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, to me, that is a wild uphill battle to get there. Like, okay, for example, if you look at some of the other guys in this range, we already talked about J.K. Dobbins, right? Brees Hall, all of that, perfectly fine. We like those guys. But if you're sorting by salary, and we're just considering the main slate here, right? Now, uh, you have Tony Pollard in there, but you also have Kareem Hunt at $6,300. Like, all right, I would rather have, if Travis Etienne is out, I would rather have Tank Bigsby over Tony Pollard. Now, the argument there would be that Tank Bigsby is not going to get the pass catching work. Who is it? Dearness Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's fair. I probably wouldn't love him. But I mean, Devon Achane is cheaper. And I don't know. There's just a lot here that, like Javonte Williams, I know there's several players in the backfield. So the argument, of course, with Pollard, if Tajay Spears is out, is always just going to be, yeah, but he's getting all of the work. And I totally get that. It's a very valid point. But Javonte Williams is 6K against Carolina. They are 9-point favorites. The Panthers are as bad of a defense as we've seen in many years in the NFL. So, yeah.
And there are other running backs I like here as well. So, like, if we didn't want to plug in Pollard, the other guy we could fit in here that I also like is you do have Josh Jacobs against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacobs is $6,600. That Jacksonville team is another disaster. Like, of all the teams that are bad this year, Lofty, the Jaguars are the one that surprised me the most. I didn't expect them to be arguably the worst team in the league this season.
They're bad. Yeah, I mean, they got a nice little gimme blowout win in London against the Patriots, but it's their pass defense that's terrible, specifically. But if they fall behind early, they'll just run.
And Lawrence has somehow gotten worse as a young quarterback.
Yeah, I don't understand it. And he actually has better weapons. Like, Brian Thomas is an upgrade from Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, he's awesome. Christian Kirk has kind of disappeared this year, but part of it too is, like, as bad as Lawrence has been, the numbers can only be so good for the wideouts. But yeah, Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, that's a really solid core of pass catchers. And then not to mention that Tank Bigsby has played well. We just hit on him. And in addition to Bigsby, you've also got ETN really hasn't been all that impressive over the course of his career, but still, it's like a good backfield that he has. There's so many weapons around Trevor Lawrence, and it's just a dog shit team all the way around.
So who do you want to plug in?
We just ran the lineup. We went with Jacobs, and Jordan ran it. We got the 155 sim ROI.
Yeah, I'd say that looks pretty good.